Sorry I'm late. How are y'all doing? Oh wait. Wow, chat turned out really small. Hang on. I mean, not to be insensitive towards y'all. Just saying. Oh, Mom, I love you. Aww. That is so sweet. I love you too. Wait. Ship. Wait. How do I? You good? That's good. Yeah, I'm sleepy. I'm a sleepy boy. I hope that's gonna get itself fixed. Also, hi Goatman. How are you doing? No problems about not making it often. It's not, you know, it's not, mandatory. God, wow, my brain. I hope it's gonna charge up again soon. I feel like maybe starting to get a little tired from streaming so much. Maybe. Why do people say Goat my phone name? Just Goat. Well, true. I know, it's just sometimes I like to call myself Goat, and then that it's just kind of like, okay, to distinguish us, you know, it's kind of, you know, just kind of try to make that distinction, I guess. I don't know. Where did we leave off? Waking up from an outdated role self. Hang on. In order to heal, you first need to releasing yourself from a self-defeating role. Releasing yourself from a self-defeating role. Where's that? Oh, there it is. Okay. Hi, small analog. Always call you Cage. Okay. I guess that could be confusing for other people, but yeah, sure. I'll try to keep that in mind. How you doing, analog? Okay. I don't know why I'm small here and IRL, super small, very small. The smallest beans. I don't know why I'm having such difficulty with the study streams lately. Do you have to be leaving very, very soon? Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You gotta do what you gotta do. Okay. So, to recap, we are in the chapter Breaking Down and Awakening, which is about realizing that you've got some shit to figure out because, you know, the pain just gets too much to bear, and, you know, getting in touch with your actual feelings, and yeah, that part. Got a throat lozenge in my mouth. I hope that won't make any issues. Waking up to what you really feel. Sometimes giving up a healing fantasy of how we will finally win love means we have to face unwanted feelings about people close to us. Many of us tend to feel guilty and ashamed for feelings we deem to be unacceptable. We're convinced that the only way to be a good person is to repress these feelings. However, if we quash our real feelings for too long, they may bubble up in ways that force us to stop and look at what's wrong. Wait. I think I already got into this. Oh yeah, I read this last time. Hi Albatross, thanks for the lurk. Yeah, I got into this last time already. But I didn't take any notes on it. But I'm also not sure if there is anything to really take notes on. Did I take notes? Identifying your thing? Yeah, I am a little bit lost. So yeah, there's this woman who got anxiety attacks, and then had to accept that. Wait, no, that was a different one. Hi, the Three Thunders. How are you? My day is... It's alright. My day is alright. I'm just kinda sleepy, I guess. I guess maybe the stress of the past days is slowly catching up with me. Been, keeping very busy. And now it's like, Okay, I think... I don't know if there's anything like particularly important about this one, but exercise, releasing yourself from a self-defeating role. Wait, did we... Oh wait, I did have that, okay. We did take notes on that, okay. Releasing yourself from a self-defeating role, okay. From a self-defeating... Yes, okay. Hi Sentinel, how are you doing? I'm still... You didn't miss anything, I'm still trying to warm up my brain. Because it hasn't been used yet today. Okay. Now we're getting into... Goddamn, I'm confused. Let's just keep going, I guess. I don't know, let's just freaking keep going. Pretty alright here. I'm alright. I'll be alright. Man, I was just... Man, I hope I'm not gonna have to cut the stream short again. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with the study streams lately. I feel like maybe something... The format is great in terms of in terms of content, I guess, in some sense. But something about it I need to figure out. But a big pot of chicken soup on the stuff cooking, hell yeah. Man, chicken soup sounds nice. Yeah, let's see now. You know what? It would help if I turned on the freaking music. Jesus Christ. I just realized. Okay. Exercise. Exploring whether you have hidden feelings. You can do this exercise anytime you're feeling especially anxious or in a down mood. At those times, ask yourself whether you might be harboring some hidden feelings. Consider the times when you feel worst and see if they're related to thinking about a certain person. In my experience, the two feelings people seem most reluctant to admit are being afraid of someone or not liking someone. If you don't feel better, have a break, don't push yourself. We'll see. I'll see how I can figure this out. If I have to take a break, I will, but we'll see. As you think how to put your suppressed feelings about this person into words, I recommend speaking as a fourth grader might, using simple, clear sentences. Also, work on this in a private place so you don't have to worry about other people's reactions. Then let yourself speak or whisper your honest truth out loud. You might try a phrase like, I don't like it when this person... something, describing their behavior. When you hit upon your true feelings, you'll feel a release of tension or a sense of relief in your body. Don't let guilt inhibit you. You're speaking only to yourself for the purpose of self-discovery. No one can hear you, and it's completely safe. Some people think it's necessary to confront the other person to get a true resolution, but I believe this is often counterproductive and provokes too much anxiety. Disclosing feelings too soon may flood you with unnecessary anxiety, not to mention risking a backlash, when you're just beginning to get in touch with your true feelings. You can always talk to the person later if you wish, but first you need to regain your ability to speak your feelings to yourself. Just to be clear, what helps isn't telling the other person, it's knowing what you really feel. Simply admitting your feelings and stating them out loud can make a huge difference in regaining your emotional peace. In that sense, I'm seeing. Hang on, there's a thought forming. There's a thought forming. You know. I'm just reminded of. By the way, Holmes, congrats on being first. There's this kind of debate about you know, forgiving someone who hurt you. Like, some people will say that it's important for your own sake to forgive that person, but other people say, like, hey, you don't owe that to anyone. You allow yourself to feel those feelings, and there's truth in both of them. I think you need to consider how you approach that sense of forgiveness. Like, I think when you still harbor that anger, it's important to recognize that and to allow it to be there, because it is there for a reason. It's a valid feeling, probably. I mean, that's another thing you might have to consider, like whether it's actually valid, or maybe you're just, I don't know, maybe you're angry at someone because you're jealous of them, and then you have to be like, okay, that is not fair to anyone. But yeah, I think the two ideas can definitely coexist. But first you need to really allow yourself to feel that anger, and then process that, and then at some point you can let go of it. So yeah, let's take some notes on this now. Get that keyboard. I guess I might have to invest in like one of those mic arms, because this tiny little stand I have for my microphone, it just keeps getting in the way. It gets really complicated handling like the mic and my hands and the book and the keyboard and the phone and that. Okay. Exercise. Exploring whether you have hidden feelings. Anytime you're feeling especially anxious, anytime you're in a particularly down or anxious mood, and you can't entirely place it. Is that half? Yeah, sure. Place it. Consider that you might have some hidden feelings. Those feelings may often be related to oh, wait. Think of the times you feel worst, and consider if those feelings are related to thinking about a particular person. Often something like a feeling of dislike or fear of someone. While thinking about while try to put your feelings toward this person into words. Consider using the simple language of say a 4th grader. Do it in private so you can speak freely. Speak out loud or whisper something like, I don't like it when person does thing. Using the simple language of a 4th grader, for example, he make me a big salinit or he want to smack them with pistic. Neep, I don't know what kind of 4th graders you've been hanging out with. I think you might have to consider not going to a caveman school. Also, hi Neep, how you doing? Speaking your feelings out loud can give you a sense of relief. You don't have to confront the person. And in fact, that can be a bad thing for starters. It can be a bad thing. In fact, that can cause more trouble than it's worth. Same deal as yesterday, but still want to pop in and say hi. Oh, how's your moving going? Thanks for checking in. That's how 4th graders in Scotland talk, really. I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny that. I mean, I don't know. I guess you're the expert on that. By the way, how's my voice? I'm a little further away from the mic. I hope and also have a throat lozenge in my head. Yes, I mean it is technically in my head, but mostly it's in my mouth. So yeah. That can cause more trouble than it's worth. For now, it's... What age is 4th grade? What age is 4th grade? Hang on. 4th grade age. That's like 9 to 10. Okay, little. Hang on. You know what? That's a good point. Language of, say, a 10-year-old. There we go. For now, it's only in. Oh, wait. For now, it's. Ah, thanks for the posture check and hi chat for us. By the way, did I ever mention how I love your name? Like, I like Ampharos, so, you know, kind of biased, but still. For now, it's only important that you know what you feel and allow yourself to. Those are some fast hat pats. Hi Joe. How are you doing? And allow yourself to feel and express that. Confronting the person can come later. That or beat down. I mean, sometimes the boundaries can get blurry. Just had to crack open a can of spaghetti with an axe because no can opener moved into my first. Because no can opener moved in my first own place yesterday. Very happy with basic stuff missing. Pat says yeah. Oh wow, man. Dude, Golan is in the process of moving, and you just finished moving. I hope you like your new place. I hope everything goes well for you. That's always such a big step. Free of the homeless shelter. Oh God, yeah, man, that's so good. I'm so happy for you, dude. Man, you never consider that like someone might be watching your streams who could be homeless. Like, man, I'm glad you got out of that. Very cozy. I'm glad. Man, hey, yeah, I'm just kind of overwhelmed. Like, wow, that's cool. Cool. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything important here. Always talk to. Need to regain your ability to speak to your feelings for yourself. Knowing what you really feel, simply stating and stating out loud can make a huge difference in emotion. Went from home to homeless shelter to first apartment. Good. I mean, you know, could have done without that middle step, but you know. This is about your own inner peace. Okay. Next chapter. Waking up to anger. Because anger is an expression of individuality, it's the emotion that emotionally immature parents most often punish their children for having. But anger can be a helpful emotion because it gives people energy to do things differently and lets them see themselves as worthy of sticking up for. It's often a good sign when overly responsible, anxious, or depressed people begin to be consciously aware of feeling angry. It indicates that their true self is coming to the fore and that they're beginning to care about themselves. This is one of those philosophical study streams we talked about yesterday. I mean, it's a psychological study stream mostly, but I mean, the boundaries can get blurry between the two. The trick is being able to focus the anger in the right direction, right? And, you know, not letting it overtake you. You know, like there's a lot of which really said, what you? What do you mean? Where was I? Right. Like there's some people who are like, who treat anger as something that has a will of its own and just kind of overpowers you, but that's not a good kind of anger. That's my most productive when I'm angry. Like, yeah, anger is basically like, at its most basic, anger is just an emotion that says, I don't like how things are right now. I'm going to do something to change that. Whereas like fear, for instance, is like, I don't like how things are right now because, you know, I think I might die or suffer pain or something, and I'm gonna get away from that. Peace out. And sadness is like, oh, Dev Papa Dale, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing? I assume you're not really deaf. I still haven't. I totally meant to install a closed captioning thing, but apparently I still need to set something up about that, and then I just kind of got distracted and didn't do that. So yeah, I need to get on that. But yeah, hi. What was I? Right. Sadness is like, basically, I don't like how things are right now, and I would like some support, and I need to decompress and, you know, cry out some stress and stuff like that. I don't know. Sadness is kind of the most hard to pin down, like in terms of basically emotions are about realizing something about things, and, you know, being compelled to act accordingly in a way that hopefully helps you overcome that problem. Or there's happiness that's just like, hey, this is good, more of this please. But yeah, so yeah, anger can be super good because it can also be like, God damn it, Teiyu, just stop being whiny. Like, please, you know you don't want to be stuck in a rut for your entire life, so just do this thing. It's not that hard. We can do this. Don't worry. Like, it's understanding, but there's some anger in there because something needs to change. Okay. So here's Jade's story. Jade used to feel bad about herself for feeling angry so often, especially because her anger was often directed toward her parents. For years, she thought the answer was to pretend not to have those feelings. Secretly, Jade worried that she was a malcontent who got irritated for no good reason. But Jade's anger seemed to have its roots in how her dismissive and emotionally unengaged parents ignored her feelings. When Jade finally started thinking about her anger in terms of her emotional needs being neglected, she was able to see it differently. Now I think there would be something wrong with me if I weren't angry. There are plenty of reasons why I'm angry, and my anger is coming right from my core self. It's very empowering to be angry. I don't want to live a lie anymore. It's been lonely and disappointing trying to relate to my parents. Being with them is isolating. After accepting her anger, Jade could see her healing fantasy clearly for the first time. She had thought she could heal her family by being extremely loving. Extremely loving. This lozenge is causing problems. Just break it down. Okay. Here's how she put it. I try to see everybody as good. I thought everyone loved one another. I was naive. I thought that if you were nice to people, at the end of the day things would get fixed. I thought that my parents would actually love me, but that my brother and sister might care about what I'm interested in. But now I've learned that I need to do what's right for me and trust myself. I really do enjoy my own company. I don't want to waste my time anymore. I hope I'll find people I can trust. I'm not going to try to make it work with people who are distant and or unsupportive. I'll be cordial and polite, but I'm not moving in close just to be disappointed. Break it down. Ugh, stop. Ugh, summertime. Brr. Okay. Notes, important notes, anger, good. If you're overly concerned with trying to please everyone, allowing your recognizing that you're angry can overnight. Hi. Recognizing that you're angry can be a first sign that you're allowing yourself to be true to yourself and to be true to yourself and recognize if you're not treated fairly. Which, by the way, shout out to Noble Bunny Rin, who is one of my favorite people ever. Hasn't been streaming in the last few months, unfortunately, because of university, but yeah, she says sorry a lot and tries never to be angry or anything. And I'm always happy when I see like just a little spark of anger in her, just a little bit of, okay, stop, you know? Because it's like, hey, you're learning to stick up for yourself and not just take everything. But yeah, hi to overnight. I think I'm starting to warm up a little bit. I was like really tired earlier, but I think my brain is starting to work a little bit more. So hopefully this time we'll be streaming for at least like 3 hours. Though I would hope for like at least 4. Although 4 might be a little bit much considering the time and stuff. I don't know. But how are you? Next part. Wait. Hang on. I should probably... Anger good. Anger mean... I don't like this. I wanna... actively change this. There we go. Good, just relaxing. Good. I'm glad you're relaxing here then. So yeah, let's talk about waking up to better self-care. Internalizers are notorious for not taking good care of themselves. Word. Believing it's up to them to improve or fix everything, they often end up neglecting their own health, especially the need for rest. As they work to attend to everything they think they need to do, they often overlook even basic physical cues, including pain and fatigue. Oh god. Lena's story. Lena lived a very pressured life in spite of her best efforts to keep things simple. She always felt like she was running out of time. Good lord, yeah. It was as though there was a voice in her head that constantly told her to keep pushing herself, and that her efforts were never adequate. Even pleasurable activities like playing the piano became marathons in which she had to overcome laziness and do her best. She never gave herself a break until she was completely spent. I just remembered, someone redeemed Hydrate like ages ago. Brr. In addition to working feverishly at her full-time job, her life was dictated by the demands she constantly received from others, down to her pets and the birds she fed in her yard. A drooping plant could fill her with guilt for not watering it sooner. When Lena took an exercise class to help her relax, she wore herself out trying to keep up and do everything perfectly. During the class, she told herself, "I should be able to do this. This is baby stuff." The next morning, she woke up unable to think or function very well, but didn't realize she had overdone it until she tried to go up some steps, at which point she found that she was so sore she could barely lift her legs. Lena had a long-standing habit, promoted by her demanding mother, of ignoring her body's cues about fatigue. As a child, if she didn't get things done quickly enough or work hard enough, her mother chastised her for being lazy. As a result, she had never done things at her own pace and was insensitive to her physical limits. Lena had been trained to believe that being a good person meant straining to achieve, even if that meant always being a little off balance and never quite ready. In Lena's quest for her mother's approval and love, she had developed the belief that she was only worth something when she was trying really hard. Her childhood healing fantasy was that one day she would try so hard that her mother would be transformed from a perennially dissatisfied taskmaster into an appreciative parent who recognized how hard her daughter was trying to please her. Lena's all-out efforts were also encouraged by society in general through cultural maxims like "try your hardest," "never give up," or "always do your best." For an overly motivated person like Lena, such messages are mind poison. It's unnecessarily exhausting to always try your best. It's more sensible to know when to do your very best and when not to. Fortunately, once Lena realized what her healing fantasy was doing to her, she was able to reset her values and take her own needs into account. There's something you can to ponder. Like, I think that doing your best and never giving up are definitely good things. Trying your hardest, that's a bit of a different story, because, that really sounds like you're pushing yourself. But just doing your best, there's a distinction there. Like I guess what I'm more concerned about is like just holding yourself accountable, Just trying to be your best self. Which also includes like, recognizing when you need some rest, because that, you can't be your best self if you aren't, well, first of all, if you don't take care of yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And also, you are a body. You are, more than some of your parts, but you are still a body, and that body needs to be taken care of. But yeah. Important to consider that distinction between just like this raw, like, you gotta perform, you gotta always be perfect and stuff, and between just try to always be the best you can be at the moment, I guess. Because I'm looking at it from more of a like philosophical perspective, in terms of like, you know, as I said, holding yourself accountable and thinking, okay, was that what I did just, was that right? Although, I mean, obviously that can also go too far. You know, I do tend to be a little overly concerned with always doing the right thing. And that can also get like extremely stressful and exhausting. And also, you know, if you keep yourself in check too much, that's a fast travel ticket to like psychosomatic issues, because you're constantly stressed. It's one of those things that makes you not allow yourself to feel the things you're feeling. So, interesting things to consider, like how to strike that balance. Anyway, making up to better self-care. Pretty self-explanatory. Internalizers in particular are notoriously bad at self-care, especially if they had demanding parents who would chastise chastise? How do you spell? Is that with an S or with a Z? Chastised with an S. Who would chastise them for not performing well enough, quote unquote. They're always concerned with living up to an impossible, well, let's say unreasonable standard and fixing, well, trying to take care of everything and everyone around them at the expense of themselves. That is no bueno. Well done. No. That sucks. Take care of yourself. Can't pour from an empty cup, y'all. There we go. That's much better. Next one. Waking up through relationship breakdowns. Relationship problems present a huge opportunity to wake up. Given that we tend to play out painful patterns learned in childhood in our significant adult relationships, it isn't surprising that so many people come forth therapy because of relationship issues. And because intimate adult relationships are so emotionally arousing, they tend to activate unresolved issues about not getting our emotional needs met. We often project issues about our parents onto our partners. Then we may become even more angry with them because, at an unconscious level, they remind us of the past in addition to whatever is happening in the present. Mike's story. Mike had recently hit rock bottom after cutbacks in his work hours and a divorce that left him nearly penniless. His life had been entirely about being a success in the eyes of other people, especially his wife and his mother. Now, in therapy, he was working hard to identify values more in keeping with his true self. In the process, he was beginning to appreciate himself for who he was, including his unique strengths and talents. As Mike reflected on his past, he said, "I didn't make decisions based on how I felt. I made decisions based on what other people wanted. I've been doing this for 35 years, including enduring a loveless marriage, and I have nothing to show for it. But maybe I wanted my recent problems to happen. Maybe I was hoping things would crumble. I've been beaten up, torn down and humiliated, and now I'm about to be laid off. But I'm telling you, I'm happy." In spite of his material losses and disappointments, Mike could finally drop the healing fantasy that he would be loved if he took care of everybody else at his own expense. The enormous financial debt he incurred due to his divorce was a fitting metaphor for what it had cost him to be someone he wasn't for so many years. Realizing how desperate he had been to be accepted by others, Mike said, "I didn't think I was as good as other people." Then he looked at me, smiled, and asked, "So how to define a successful person?" Answering his own question, he said, "I guess first of all you get rid of success, and then you see who you are as a person." Interesting. That's some philosophical stuff there. Alright. Relationship breakdowns. Breakdowns. Can be a huge opportunity for... hi there. Little Jesus, happy to see you. It's going okay. I'm struggling a little bit. I think I'm a little bit exhausted from the, past week and stuff. Thanks for the stretch. Hang on. Whoa. Oh, God. Ooh. Oh, I got lightheaded for a second. Good Lord. Okay. Alright. Another sip. How are you doing, Jesus? What was I saying? Huge opportunity for waking up. Waking up to action does. And that we tend to play out painful patterns learned in childhood. We tend to play out relationship patterns learned in childhood. Take care, Gage. Have a good day. Or good... A good? Yeah, a good day. Just a little upset that I'm getting forced off my current shift at work. Oh no. I hope you can get that fixed at some point. Or is that... I don't know how permanent that is. Learn in childhood? And to play up bring on them, not learn in childhood? And adult relationships tend to be very emotionally charged. So we might, so when a conflict breaks out, we might, be reliving past trauma on top of whatever else is currently going on. Oh well. Let's say reminded of past trauma. Okay, I wanna quote something. Yeah. Let's see, how do I best quote this? Okay, just like that. Sorry, I had to figure out how to quote something that is itself full of quotes. So I'm just gonna quote the quotes. I didn't think I was as good as other people. So how to define a successful person? I guess first of all, hang on. Quotes, more at 11, yeah. Or in the words of the immortal Hotel Mario, all goats quote quotes. Okay. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna quote this part. Maybe I was hoping things would crumble. I've been beaten up, torn down, and and humiliated. And now I'm about to be laid off. But I'm telling you I'm happy. Can I get some guess not. Guess I can't make it. What's it called? It's not cursive. It's italic. Italics, yeah. Blah, blah. Guess first of all. Okay, back to that quote. First of all, you get rid of success. And then you see who you are as a person. A man who lost everything in a divorce, but gained himself. Okay. Waking up from idealizing others. One of the hardest fantasies to wake up from is the belief that our parents are wiser and know more than we do. It can be embarrassing and even scary for children to see their parents' weaknesses. And even as adults, people may strongly resist seeing their parents' immaturity for what it is. It can feel better to remain naive about their limitations than to look at them objectively. Subconsciously, perhaps we feel protective of a parent's vulnerability. Patsy's story. My client Patsy was clearly more emotionally mature than either her impulsive husband or her petulant mother who lived with her. However, Patsy recoiled when I observed that she seemed to be the most mature person in the family. "Oh, I don't like to think that," she objected. She said such a thought felt disloyal and that she didn't think of herself as special or superior in any way. Although humility can be a nice quality, it wasn't doing Patsy any good, because she was using it to ignore a glaring reality. Idealizing her mother and husband wasn't helping her, nor was denying her own strengths. Once Patsy was able to accept that she had more maturity than her husband or mother, she could be more objective about their behavior. She stopped attributing positive qualities to them that they didn't have, and was able to set limits with them. She also stopped wasting energy pretending she was less than she was, so that they could pretend to be more than they were. This chapter is coming to an end soon. Waking up to your strengths. It's important for people to consciously appreciate their strengths. Unfortunately, the children of emotionally immature parents usually don't develop much appreciation for their positive qualities, because self-involved parents have little or no ability to reflect their children's strengths. As a result, these children often feel a little embarrassed to think of themselves in terms of their most positive qualities. They're accustomed to putting others in the limelight and worry that they'll get a swelled head if they recognize their own strengths. However, it's crucial to know what your assets are and be able to articulate them. It provides self-validation and allows you to feel good about what you bring into the world. This self-recognition builds energy And now I'm just kind of coming down from that, and well, I wish I could keep that for a little later. Oh well. Also gotta learn to I mean, mostly it's good. My brain is just having trouble working. Also gotta learn to acknowledge. Ah, Script Jelly Toast, hi there. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing? You've also gotta learn to acknowledge your own strengths. There's nothing wrong about acknowledging that stuff. And it gives you a better sense of yourself and more energy to accomplish things. Okay. New chapter. By the way, if anyone who's new here has any questions about what the heck I'm doing, please go ahead and ask. Otherwise, I'm gonna assume that you can figure it out. Feels like a stream I could benefit from. I've been trying to figure out my parents for years, yeah. I mean, it's not so much about the parents as it is on, about the effect that their parenting has had on you. Because, the way that your psyche develops is that basically, as a little baby, you start figuring out patterns like there's this term called what was it? Constructivism, which is a model for explaining how we learn things and gain an understanding of the world, which basically means that we essentially construct a model of the world in our heads. And you start doing that as like a very small child, like from the beginning. You're figuring out, oh yeah, things like object permanence. You have to learn object permanence. If like a little baby, when mom hides her face, the baby is like, "Where's mom?" And then she shows her face again. And it's like, "Oh, she's back." And then eventually they learn, "Oh yeah, she isn't actually gone. She's been there the whole time. She doesn't disappear when I can't see her." And you just keep building on top of all that. So in your early childhood, you start learning things about like how humans interact and what the world works like in those human social terms, and you mostly learn that from your parents. So if your parents did a bad job, like giving you the support you need and all that, like it can really fuck you up for the rest of your life if you don't learn to recognize that and work against it. So yeah. Okay. Next chapter, subchapter. Waking up to a new set of values. Family therapist and social worker Michael White developed a form of psychotherapy known as narrative therapy. Ooh. Good stuff, yeah. His approach was founded on the idea that it's crucial for people to become conscious of the meaning and intentions in the storylines they've been living by. In the process of uncovering a client's life story, the therapist works to expose the often self-neglectful values people have been living by, and then invites them to update their guiding principles, choosing new values more consciously. Aaron's story. Aaron was a strong, silent type who had always lived by a code that involved not pushing for recognition. Growing up, he loved theater and acting, but he never spoke up to request a role or ask a director for a bigger part. He thought that he would seem spoiled and demanding if he promoted himself, and that lobbying for himself was a sign of weakness. However, as an adult, Aaron began to see that his code of not speaking up for himself often resulted in other people being put ahead of him. In addition, others often took advantage of his talents without reciprocating. He saw that his healing fantasy, in which he hoped authority figures would spontaneously recognize his potential, wasn't coming to fruition. By the way, a healing fantasy is basically is a term this author uses in regards to this view of your parents that you come up with as a child. Like if you were a child who was not properly taken care of by your parents, then you probably took on a role self, like you were trying to fit a certain role in order to hopefully make them love you or something. And that whole thing about them hopefully loving you, that is the healing fantasy. Like you cling on to that hope that if you just keep doing that enough, like eventually you will receive that love and stuff. Also, hi Zoe. I think one of the most interesting points I learned about children is that when something happens, such as falling loud noises, the first thing the child does is look at their most trusted figure for a response. It invites the question of how bad is it, which they then build on. If they see a panicked role model, they cry. If the role model is neutral, they'll think nothing of it. If the role model is happy, they will take pleasure and do it more. Children learn through sight. The example parents give become their foundation. Exactly, yeah. Like, it's easy to forget how much children just, depending on how old we are talking, of course, but like a baby really comes into the world with like nothing. Like, object permanence and all of that stuff has got to be learned. So yeah. Oh, definitely. That definitely contributed to that, yeah. Want to not mess up my future children that way, yeah. But don't worry, if you're becoming aware of that stuff, that's already like a huge first step. Like even if you're just concerned about not wanting to mess up your children, you're like already a huge step ahead of a lot of people. Good point. Helicopter parents from the example of anxiety, thus the child becomes anxious themselves and feels they must always be on guard. Yeah. Right, yeah. You just kind of always look for other people to get a sense of, like, as I said, like how the world works. If your parents are always like, angry about stuff or anxious or something, you're gonna be like, oh dear, oh no, the world is a scary place. Or, everybody is my enemy, oh no, what misery. So, yeah. Waking up to a new set of values. Right, I stopped in the middle of that to do that thing. Healing fantasy wasn't coming to fruition. So he decided to develop a new value of going after what he wanted. He started actively seeking opportunities and laying claim to them. Considering a job change, he said, "In the past I would have been reluctant to do this for myself, but now I'm not." He finally saw himself as worthy of standing up for and investing in. Do you have a dedicated day of the week that you go over this stuff? Oh. I mean, not really yet. Gonna have to figure out that stuff eventually. Like right now, it's just, it's just whenever I get the opportunity, though it tends to be Friday. Although Friday is not actually a good day for it, actually, now that I think about it. It tends to actually be Thursday, now that I think about it. Man, eventually I'm gonna figure that out. Eventually, I'm gonna have my life in control, and then everything is gonna have like a schedule and stuff. I hope. I'm speaking it into existence. Waking up by getting free of childhood issues. Working through childhood emotional injuries is the most effective way of waking up from repeating the past. When I say working through, I mean the mental and emotional process of coming to grips with painful realities. Think of it as a process of breaking down something that's initially too big to swallow. You chew on it until it can become a digestible part of your history. Sorry, I just had to clean away the part of my brain that wanted to make a dirty joke. Research suggests that what has happened to people matters less than whether they've processed what happened to them. Yep. Just like we did in the last book. Months and months ago. Chewing on this curry and damn is good. Hell yeah. Right, yeah. When something traumatic happens to you, the most important thing is that you have support and the time to work through it. Like whether you're traumatized by something doesn't depend so much on the thing that traumatized you itself, but rather if you had the possibility to work through it, basically. If not, then there's a good chance that it's gonna stick around. Research suggests, right, we had that. In a study of the characteristics of parents who raise securely attached children, researchers found that parents who created a secure attachment for their children were often characterized by a willingness to recall and talk about their own childhoods. Hell yeah. Good start. Even though some of these parents had lived through very difficult childhood experiences, their relationships with their own children were secure since they had spent time thinking about and integrating their childhood experiences and were at ease with both the negative and positive aspects of their past. It's interesting. I'm wondering about my own mother. Like, she had such a traumatic past. Like spectacularly. It's I mean, kind of grotesque how I'm talking about it, but it's like, wow. Girl. Holy crap. It's kind of a miracle that she managed to raise us as well as she did. And I wouldn't say that she raised us as to be securely attached. She's only human after all, but I feel like she has only in recent years become more willing to talk about her past openly. And it's only been in recent years that our relationship has, I guess our relationship is more of a thing about us working out some things. But yeah, I can definitely tell that she has been getting more at peace with herself and stuff. Finding difference is that those who endure trauma either grow from it and understand what should change, or they never really escape it and pass it down to the bloodline. Or, somewhere between there. like in the case of my mother, she specifically wanted to avoid raising her children the way that her mother raised her. But, you know, she was still very anxious and emotionally insecure and all of that, so, you know, she didn't quite make it to the point where she fully grew from it as a person, but she did adjust her like her morals and stuff based on her, you know, learning from that experience. Where did I stop in? It's easy to imagine why children with such parents showed secure attachment. These parents were not avoiding reality. Because they had addressed their own past, they were fully available to connect with their children and form a secure attachment. Okay. Waking up to a new set of values. The only interesting part here was about narrative therapy. Become conscious of the meaning and intentions in the storylines they've been living by. That is a big thing to just kind of drop in a few sentences like this. This is reminding me of narrative constructivism, which is a very, very big thing. Just gonna drop that term in here. Narrative constructivism is another model, you know, obviously based on constructivism, which says that well, what does it say? It says a lot, but basically humans are storytelling animals. We make sense of basically these models we have in our heads of the world aren't just like, you know, static models. They're more like a story, you know, like we try to make sense of things, find sense in things, see why things are the way they are, and also try to use that to find our own place in things. And yeah, like also another big part of one thing that often helps people deal with trauma is that, you know, exactly that, like trying to find a story to be like, okay, this is why this happened and how this is going to help me become better and stuff like that, you know, finding some kind of purpose in it. I would always recommend that no one becomes a parent until 27 or so, not only to be more grounded in routine and grasp the world, but also to have the sense of self to fully grasp what they wish to be, and therefore what they wish to raise the child under. Yeah, it does make sense. Like, 25 is generally the age I hear in terms of like becoming fully grown and like settling into like being into the kind of person who you are. Reasoning of our surroundings based upon the construction of our reality up to this point. Yeah. Narrative therapy. Therapist works to force the how do I take notes on this? Keyword. Narrative therapy. It's crucial for people to become conscious of the meaning and intentions in the storylines they've been living by. Star lines meaning the way, star lines, well, referring to the way we seek meaning and sense in the world by putting it into a starry-like structure in our minds. Evaluating the underlying values that these stories hold for us, we can uncover harmful ideas and try to replace them with helpful ones. Getting free of childhood issues. Most of it working through research often in the willingness to property. By the way, Zoe, I'm curious. Are you like you seem very knowledgeable about this kind of thing. I'm curious if you work in that field or something like that. By the way, sorry if I'm supposed to know what you work at as, because my memory is horrible about stuff like that. I'm not used to having so many people in my life to keep track of. Working through emotions. How do I summarize this? Minus less whether they processed. I do it professionally, but I'm going through a dreadfully traumatic past that I need to grow out of. Thus, I've sought to educate myself. Okay, so kind of like myself then. I see. So, not to compare our traumas or anything, just, yeah. It's Zoe is a real what is it? How do you say it? A real testament to how a beautiful flower can grow from the grossest dirt, basically. In turn, by sharing things with others, I've learned further how to help myself and other people. Anytime I can offer that help, I do. Yeah. Working. I appreciate you. working through childhood emotional trauma is the most effective way of waking up from. We are all the best lay people we can be. Yeah. Waking up from repeating the past. Working through means a process of coming to grips with painful realities. Emotionally and mentally. It's literally like chewing and digesting something that's hard to swallow. The actual trauma matters less to, or rather, the actual source of trauma matters less to its traumatic effect than whether the person could adequately process it afterwards. Hi Cat, how you doing? My day is, it's alright. I'm just kind of chilling. Oopsie daisy. Perhaps the most interesting part of my is that it all connects eventually. An awful event can create trauma, but there are so many pieces that lead up to it. An emotional response to a situation verifies that there is some degree of care invested. An angry or sad or guilty, it solidifies that there was respect in some way. It all connects eventually. Awful event can create trauma. Kind of some complex stuff. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by it all connects eventually. Could adequately process it afterwards. Parents who raise securely attached children are often characterized by a willingness to talk about and recall their own childhoods. Even if that childhood was very difficult. Unlike emotionally immature parents, they don't avoid reality and so can be fully present for their child. Okay. Summary of this whole chapter. The true self will always find ways to express itself, even in the face of efforts to play a role or live out a healing fantasy. When people have ignored their true self for too long, they may develop psychological symptoms. Waking up to the needs of the true self can initially feel like breaking down. Panic, anger, and depression are just a few symptoms that may signal an emotional awakening to better self-care and healthier values. When people process their childhood issues and wake up to their strengths, they gain the confidence to start living from their true self. In the next chapter, we'll explore how you can use this new objectivity and self-awareness to interact with emotionally immature family members in a new way. Oh no, did I do a false advertisement? Hang on. How long is this chapter? And then the one after that is how it feels to live free of roles and fantasies. And then how to identify emotionally mature people. Okay. Getting there. We're getting there. Eventually, we will be free of this book. We can start working on something else. You know, I initially started doing these study streams just to convince myself to, study. This is clearly not a very effective way to go about it. I mean, it might be very effective, but it's anything but efficient. Creation of one's character through an example of role models and independent study of social cues, even passively, teaches what is socially acceptable response. When seeing someone's outbursts or venting, I see it stem from they care about X and X was violated. Because they value X, its detriment triggers an intense emotional response to protect that sanctity. No one is ever simply angry. There's always a reason. Watching how people respond to situations tells me so much about them. Even if I don't have specific examples to illustrate. Definitely not an efficient way to study, yeah. But I mean, I guess I should be choosing my books more for like, being something interesting to discuss with people. Because, that's what it tends to be in the end. Okay. Chapter 8. How to avoid getting hooked by an emotionally immature parent. Wait, was there something I wanted to say? Anger, guilty. Okay. Back to the book. It's hard to see our parents as fallible human beings. As children, we believe our parents can do anything. Although adolescence and the independence of adulthood can weaken our view of our parents as all-powerful, they don't eradicate it. Therefore, even if they aren't loving, we wishfully think they could be if they wanted to. Certain cultural tenets also keep us from seeing our parents clearly. Most of us are instilled with beliefs such as these. All parents love their children. A parent is the one person you can trust. A parent will always be there for you. You can tell your parents anything. Your parents will love you no matter what. You can always go back home. Your parents only want what's best for you. Your parents know more than you do. Whatever your parents do, they're doing it for your own good. Hello again. Welcome back. But if your parents were emotionally immature, many of these statements may not be true. In this chapter, I'll help you look beneath the surface of your childhood hopes and cultural assumptions in order to see your parents more accurately. You'll be learning a new way to relate to them so that you won't expect what they can't give. You'll learn how to protect your emotions and individuality by... Thanks for the posture check. By wait. How to protect your animals in any video by approaching your parents in a more neutral way, in a way they can tolerate emotionally. But first, let's look at a common fantasy that often prevents people from relating to their parents in a realistic way. Yeah, and hydrate. Thank you. Let's look at that. A common fantasy among children of emotionally immature parents is that their parents will have a change of heart and finally love them by showing concern. Unfortunately, self-preoccupied parents refuse all invitations to fulfill their part in the child's healing story. Focused on their own healing fantasy, they expect their children to make up for their childhood hurts. Feeling okay? Yeah. Fine, I think I can go for like 3 hours. Was training oil out of my tractor. What I miss? Well, I guess you missed like, hang on, this stuff, and a bunch of stuff in chat. But aside from that, all of that, I think you're good. Seeking their parents' healing love. Many people hop around after their parents like hungry birds, trying to elicit a crumb of positive response from them. In adulthood, these children often learn a variety of healthy communication skills and hope these skills will improve their relationship with their parents. They think they might finally have the techniques necessary to draw their parents into a rewarding interaction. I think this is a super good study in general. People, a personal view, put far too much stock in the omnipotence of their parents. The grants level as the child grows over time. Parents are less all-knowing than we initially thought, and then there comes a point where we might even feel that we can't take them at their ways as entirely as we used to. What do you do with the overlay, by the way? Just empty black screen with a text choice? Yeah, just like that. Couldn't figure out anything else. Here, let's... Oh wow, this is a long story. Alright. Annie's story. Annie's mother, Betty. Okay, very convenient. They are A and B. Annie's mother, Betty, a woman with strong religious convictions, had always been emotionally insensitive, and her childhood treatment of Annie sometimes verged on physical and emotional abuse. Although Annie had lived with this treatment for a long time, she reached the breaking point when Betty made a derogatory comment about Annie in front of her colleagues at Annie's award ceremony at work. Annie's feelings were deeply hurt, and she was embarrassed in front of her friends. The insult... Ah, Lena Leslie, hi there. Welcome. I mean, you know, you've been here before, so I don't... Never mind. I'm glad to see you. I'll just use a cropped word window. But see, like, I don't know how it is for Word, but like, Open Office couldn't be captured. So it was like, I don't know. Like, I don't think it showed up in even like window capture or anything. But yeah, Lena, how are you doing? Like, I also couldn't get my browser to show up in window capture. Makes it very, very inconvenient when I want to like show a YouTube video or something. Doing well? Good to catch you streaming. Oh, I'm glad that you could catch me streaming too. Just running OBS as an administrator, I had to do that. Some games to capture. Oh, that is a good point. Yeah, never consider that. Okay. Reached a breaking point. She was hurt. The insult was so blatant that Annie was sure her mother couldn't deny the wildly inappropriate nature and timing of her comment as she usually did. But Betty wouldn't take responsibility, coldly denying that what she'd done was problematic. I have to do it now. My camera won't show up. Can't deprive everyone of my beautiful visage. Absolutely. By the way, everyone go give some love to Neep. He is like, if you like this kind of stream, like you could do a lot worse than Neep. His voice is also quite nice, and you know, if you can understand it, because he's got that Scottish accent, and he's super sweet and very, very smart, and also very knowledgeable about all this stuff. Need to talk slower? Maybe. I also have that problem sometimes. Over the next few days, Annie kept trying to get Betty to understand how hurt she was. She finally wrote a letter to her mother, telling her how she felt and asking her to sit down with her and talk it out. Annie put a great deal of thought into that letter, which was extremely emotionally articulate, in hopes that Betty would see and regret that her behavior had been so chronically insensitive over the years. But Betty didn't offer any response. Emptiness hung between them, along with Annie's impression that her mother couldn't care less. Thanks for the follow from our friend. That's how tired I am. I tend to slip and talk normally when I'm tired. So it's like a power limiter. I want to say to her, I'm your daughter, Annie cried. Murderers kill people and their moms still love them. We're family. She's my mom. How can she just let that go? This wasn't the first time Annie had tried to reach Betty emotionally. After starting therapy, Annie tried to express herself and work things out in a healthy way whenever her parents were mean or disrespectful toward her. Although Betty routinely dismissed Annie's outreach, she'd always remain in contact so she could see Annie's 3 little boys. But this time it was different. Sorry, basically All Might, yeah. Try to express and work things out. Routinely dismissed, she always remained in contact so you could see Annie's... Okay. Right. I was just kind of confused for a moment where the 3 little boys came from, but yeah, she just has children, okay. She wants to see her grandkids. What I can't get over is that there's nothing coming back, not even anger, Annie said. All I want is some level of response that shows this matters, even if I've just made her angry. In addition to being wounded, Annie was confused. Although Betty refused to respond, Annie knew her mother was sociable and capable of showing kindness and generosity toward other people. Annie understood that those relationships were more superficial, but this knowledge didn't help her emotionally. You'd think my mom would have some natural desire to make things better between us, some kind of acknowledgement, or maybe even something through Dad. Annie's sorrow and incomprehension showed on her face. Annie was grieving over not having an emotionally supportive mother, and working through that would take time. But she was also aware that her appeals were making things worse, and it was important to address that too. Annie was confused. She was doing everything she knew to repair the relationship, communicating clearly, making respectful requests, and being emotionally honest. She wondered how they could work anything out without talking about it. Annie, I said, you're doing all the right things and trying to make a connection with your mom. You're looking for emotional intimacy with her, which makes perfect sense, but I don't think she can tolerate it. Or do you think you're just trying to relate? Your mom probably sees it as a major threat to her equilibrium. After all, she's been living like this for years. Your openness and honesty are more than she can handle. Think of it as though your mom has a snake phobia. You keep plopping a big, fat, writhing snake right in her lap. She can't stand it, no matter how meaningful it might be to you. Emotional closeness demanded a level of emotional maturity her mother simply didn't have. But her mother's silence made Annie feel like an emotional hostage. She couldn't rest until her mother was happy with her. Okay, gonna throw something in there? In part to appease, the copyright police. Like, I can confirm that it's, she did do all the right things. It did work out for me. Like, my relationship with my mother greatly improved ever since, like, well, there were a handful of events, but like one of them was like after we had a fight, rather, I sent her, well, first of all, I collected myself, and then eventually I sent her like a really very understanding and diplomatic message about, I don't quite remember what it was about, but it was like, okay, I understand why you're acting that way, and I just want to say that this hurt me. I do understand, and I just hope we can talk about this, basically. And yeah, that was one of the big steps toward me being able to, overcome any, well, I won't say any, but like pretty much any emotional trauma related to her that I can think of. And, us having a very open and nice relationship. And also about her, it's an interesting thing. I think it took a long time for her to become emotionally stable enough for that to happen. Like, it couldn't have happened while she was still, for example, in a relationship with my father, which she was unhappy in. But, after quite a few years of living with her new husband, she's gotten better about that. But still, like, I've been talking to her about, like, I was talking to her about considering therapy because, she has all that huge trauma and stuff. And she talked about that to some kind of specialist. I don't know, some doctor or therapist or something. And that person basically told her that therapy might actually harm her because she, her past was so traumatic, but she has found some kind of equilibrium where she can function reasonably well. She keeps getting all these, physical ailments that I'm pretty sure are psychosomatic, but, all in all, she could be doing a lot worse. And according to this person, like, if she tried to actually dig up all that stuff and overcome it, it would just break that down. So yeah, that equilibrium thing, that can be a huge deal. It's not easy to it's a big deal. It's a big deal, like when you try to convince someone of something. Like, humans tend to be really bad at accepting things that we disagree with, because that's part of our worldview, and that worldview is part of what keeps us stable. So yeah, like, if you think about it in those terms of like an equilibrium, like a scale that could be tipping from side to side, and if it gets unbalanced, then everything goes to shit. That really helps you visualize, like, oh yeah, this is why things take time. You can't just force like a revolution in one sense or another. I was showing you something. I was AFK for a minute. No problem, no problem. Okay, hang on, let me take a sip. I told Annie that the only way Betty was going to come around was if Annie stopped talking about her misbehavior and how hurtful it was. Annie needed to find a way forward that didn't involve her mother's participation. That's the only thing that works with parents who are terrified of emotional intimacy. I explained that she could have a relationship with her mother, but it wouldn't be the kind of relationship she yearned for. The best option was to manage their interactions deliberately rather than seeking emotional intimacy. Annie was open to my suggestions, but still felt confused. She could remember Betty's anguished visits with her own mother, who was also rejecting when Annie was a child. Betty felt so unloved by her own mother that, after these visits, she was left sobbing with no one to comfort her but Annie. How could she now be doing this to her own daughter? Annie asked. You'd think she'd hate to do that to her own child after she suffered so much. It was a good point, but Betty was just passing her trauma down the line, as people tend to do when they repress their childhood pain. Annie was so intent on winning her mother's approval that she'd stopped evaluating the relationship. She'd never asked herself whether Betty was the type of person she enjoyed being around. Changing too much too quickly always backfires, yeah. Also, I qualified. How are you doing? Alright. Now to summarize a bunch of pages. I'm pretty good too. Things are going alright. Fully present for that child. Okay. Chapter 8. Let's go to chapter 8. Oh yeah, tell Ash I said hi to you. Chapter 8. Oopsie daisy. Accepting your parents' faults can be hard, not just for child-like reasons, but also for reasons of social messages regarding the status of parents. Your parents will always love you. They only want what's best for you, etc. Kind of related. Duolingo just gave me a great sentence. Heeft den tandenborstel gevoelens? Gevoelens? Does a toothbrush have feelings? And tandenborstel? Tandenborstel? What? Tanden? I wish Lena saw all my stuff I wrote earlier. I felt so smart. you can show her the VOD. It's cool. Upper China side was appropriately odd. Oh, Zoe's so smart. I can tell you, like, I was floored. Like, I was like, oh my god, Zoe. I mean, actually, I'm not even exaggerating. I actually asked her if she is, a professional. etc. Okay. Yeah. Oh, hi Beto. How are you doing? Etc. But good luck with that if your parent is emotionally immature. Ah. This chapter will be about planning a new relationship. Yeah, I'm good. I might not be going for as long as I would like, but I'm good. It'll be about learning a new relationship. A new kind of relationship with your parents. They can't handle emotional they can't handle the emotional intimacy you want from your interactions. Hang on, gonna put a proper period here. That you want from your. So even if you've learned how to communicate in a very healthy way. By the way, this is reminding me. I was thinking that maybe the next thing I want to study on is what's it called? Nonviolent communication. Although maybe, I don't know, I feel like I should have a vote, because these streams are clearly becoming more of a thing I do for others. Okay, if you like that, then I'll do that. You know, because this is clearly not the fastest way for me to actually study things. I've been on this one book for like months. But yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking like, I want to do that and use that knowledge to build some good rules for my Discord, you know? Because I've had to shut down the vent channel for one thing. Made me realize that my rules that I set were not ideal actually. Vent channels. Yeah, I should. Good point. Yeah, I shouldn't have framed it as a vent channel, but rather as like an emotional support channel or something. Like not somewhere you go to just vent, but rather somewhere you go to get support when you need it. True, yeah. Like one thing is more about like, you know, venting is more about anger, but should be more about like sadness, getting comforted. Safe space, yeah, something like that. Although, it's difficult. Because like sometimes, what do you mean? How could that get abused super easily? The thing about calling it safe space is that like, it would actually be kinda the least quote-unquote safe space on my Discord. Because like, I would make that the space where you can talk about things that are actually like, that might go into more controversial things, which should be avoided, but sometimes can't be avoided if you want to say like, hey, I'm feeling horrible because of this thing. Depends on the community's vibe. Back to things. How to communicate in a very healthy way. This mutual observance of I'm here to help, understand that I need help too. Like I was thinking like, I do know some of the basics of non-violent communication. Like, as long as, I think the most important thing there is to recognize, first of all, only talk about your own feelings. Don't cast judgment on other people, but just talk about, okay, this thing makes me sad because things. And also to respect that other people are just talking about their feelings, and don't argue with them about that, because then you are invalidating those feelings. If anything, maybe carefully point out that, hey, you just went outside of that. You just started talking about, you just started talking shit about this group of people, and that's kind of problematic to me. However, for those who use space far too often, it could be a sign of trouble, as in those who feed on the venting drum and don't actually seek to improve oneself. I understand some people are more trouble than others, but is okay, but that must be to an end. Yeah, it must be to an end. Yeah, that's one of those difficult things to pin down that I struggle with. Like, I want it to be possible to, like, quote unquote trauma dump a little bit in my channels and whatnot. Just a little bit, like, but it should end, it should be like, get that out there and then be like, okay, well, that really sucks. If there's anything I can do to help you, I'll try. And then now let's try and vibe and, calm down. Yeah, something we just need to talk about for a little while. Can't handle your own one, so even communicate in a healthy way. You're not gonna get them to respond in kind. If you want a relationship if you still want a relationship with your parents, you're gonna need to adjust how you approach them and the relationship. Neep. It could end up reinforcing the negative feelings, because people who use it may just be doing it as a means to get some attention, which is fine. Everyone needs attention sometimes, but it can be the case where that, because their only outlet for it, it can be the case where, because that, hang on, where that, I think you jumbled up the sentence there a little bit, where that becomes their only outlet for attention, thus reinforcing it more, and the cycle continues rather than trying to get to the root and fix what's wrong. A very important point to consider, yeah. Okay. Complicated. It's hard. The more things get reinforced, the harder they are to change. True. Oh. Okay. ever more tangled ball of feelings and behavior. It's easy. Forging a new relationship. The rest of this chapter explores how to handle an emotionally immature parent as well as other people by changing your expectations and replacing reactivity with observation. 3 key approaches will help you free yourself from getting caught up in your parents' emotional immaturity. Detached observation, maturity awareness, and stepping away from your old role self. Let me see, how much is that? Okay. In those cases, it would come down to the individual where they must be addressed personally. I understand how things have been difficult, but I want to know if there's anything you can do to prevent it from happening further. Ending is important, but understand that you are not locked down to your situation. Current troubles are not permanent. You have the right to change where you live, who you associate with, where you work, and everything else at any time with or without reason. If improving one's situation means that they must leave everything behind, so be it. It's better than living in anguish daily. I know. I want to try to have a channel like that. Like maybe you call it like a healing channel. Like I would definitely have to like have general rules for the entire Discord, and then a particular set of more detailed rules and guidelines for that particular channel for anyone who wants to use it. To keep them, to have this thing to fall back on and be like, hey, are you really sticking to this? Are you really trying to heal? Have someone from my channel who wanted opinions and help with a relationship where he thought he was just being used. Even as he described it, it sounded obvious he was, but he refused to accept any advice or help, even though he was asking directly for it. Not for the first time either. Seek sorrows. Oh, I see. Oh man, that is so tragic. I mean, I guess situations like that is what tough love is for, All you can do is say like, okay, dude, I can't give you any more advice, and this is the same issue as always, and I just don't see the point in listening to this, so y'all, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to take that elsewhere, or preferably like try to actually change the situation. Well, how to say to help? Sometimes it's better to simply say, I cannot offer therapeutical advice. I hope you can find a source that will help. Alright, y'all, I'm gonna need a pee break. So y'all, take care of yourselves. Don't do anything dangerous while I'm gone. Where's with the hydrating? Okay, stretch. Let's go. Standing stretch. I had a friend who would message me every 3 months or so, asking for advice. I'd give her advice, and it was always something she didn't want to hear, so she'd bite off the handle. I wouldn't hear from her for another 3 months. She can ask for the same advice. Oh no. That is so unfortunate. I have a friend myself who is like Yeah, like, it's not quite like that. But she always has, like, these same issues, and it's like, I don't know what to do anymore. Girl. Yeah. Okay, be right back now. You know, it just occurred to me, I could just do that. Um, I could just do that stream about nonviolent communication, like, soon. Like, I don't actually have to finish this book before I do that. I could just take a break from that. I'm free. I'm a free agent. An out-of-body experience here. Oh, hi Octavia. How are you doing? When people who wish for advice come into the channel, especially for relationship advice, we must understand that they often come from a place of, they were my whole life and now I have no one to associate with to talk about this. Well, I feel for this. It's not appropriate that I am that space for them, especially if they're a new chatter. You have the right to change where you live, who you associate. Yeah. Can't help someone who won't help themselves. Yeah. I guess the best thing you can do is just, like for this friend of mine, Shut up, Neep. The best you can do is like, I don't know. What I do for my friend is, well, at first I try to, you know, be there for her, give her advice, but eventually I just, you know, I don't want to not be there for her when she's having one of her moments. But I just, you know, I pay close attention to how much I'm willing to take that, you know? I'm just, I'll be there and listen until basically she feels like she, well, because for her, like a big thing is that she feels like she has no one to turn to. It's like, man, I'll give you that for as much as I can, but no further. You just really have to consider your own your own boundaries there. Okay. Love sincerely and wait. That's the biggest part, Neve. If they don't want to improve their situation, I don't dedicate their energy to them. If they want help themselves, then I don't have the time of day to bother being their crutch. I love sincerely and deeply, but it takes a lot of energy. Thus, it is required for those whom I know not to squander it. I've had many times that I've told people I don't have the energy to respond to this sincerely, and I refuse to be disingenuous with you. I will respond when I can dedicate my energy to this properly. Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. Something like that. Yeah. That is a very good sentiment to learn. To learn to communicate. Okay. Where were we? Approach them and their relationship. Okay. Back to reading. Detached observation. The first step in gaining your emotional freedom is to assess whether either of your parents was emotionally immature. Of course. Given that you're still reading this book, you've probably decided that at least one of your parents fits that description. Such a parent can probably never fulfill your childhood vision of a loving parent. The only achievable goal is to act from your own true nature, not the role self that pleases your parent. You can't win your parent over, but you can save yourself. For my own understanding of how this works, I'm indebted to family therapist Murray Bowen for his family systems theory, which describes how emotionally immature parents promote emotional enmeshment over individual identity. As a reminder, enmeshment occurs when parents don't respect boundaries, project their unresolved issues onto their children, and get too involved in their children's business. In families dominated by emotionally immature people, enmeshment and playing roles are valued in order to keep the family quote-unquote close. Of course, genuine communication and emotional intimacy are absent in such families. No one's true self is ever acknowledged. Further, in an enmeshed family, if you have a problem with someone, you talk about that person to other people instead of going to the person directly. Bowen called this triangling and characterized enmeshment as the glue that keeps such families together. Bowen also observed how this situation might be remedied, at least for some family members. He found that observation and emotional detachment can give individuals a place to stand outside of the family system. When people keep themselves poised in neutral observations, they can't be hurt or emotionally ensnared by other people's behavior. Enmeshment is still one of those things that is really hard to really wrap my brain around. It's basically like one of those interdependent things, right? You know what? Let's have a little excursion. Let's look up what enmeshment means. Enmeshment. Relationship. Someone in an enmeshed relationship is overly connected and needs to meet the other person's needs so badly that they lose touch with their own needs, goals, desires, and feelings. Often just the thought of being without the person can be anxiety-inducing. Explains Roberts. Marriage.com. What is enmeshment? The condition where people, typically family members, are involved in each other's activities and personal things to an extreme degree, thus limiting or precluding healthy interaction and compromising individual autonomy and identity. Right. So yeah, it's basically interdependence, I guess. Becoming observational. When interacting with emotionally immature people, you'll feel more centered if you operate from a calm thinking perspective rather than emotional reactivity. Start by settling yourself and getting into an observational, detached frame of mind. Dude, way ahead of you. I'm way ahead of you there. To explain myself, I think I might be pretty good at that because I'm actually way too detached from my own emotions. So yeah, probably some kind of coping strategy I developed probably in school and stuff. There are any number of ways to do this. For example, you can count your breath slowly, tense and relax your muscle groups in a systematic sequence. That's a long way to say PMR. Or imagine calming imagery. So basically, mega detached, yeah. So basically, grounding techniques. Okay. Next, your job is to stay detached emotionally and observe how others behave, just like a scientist would. Pretend you're conducting an anthropological field study. What words would you use to describe others' facial expressions? What is their body language communicating? Does their voice sound calm or tense? Do they appear rigid or receptive? How do they respond when you try to relate? What do you find yourself feeling? Can you spot any of the emotionally immature behaviors described in chapters 2 and 3? If you're practicing observing your parent or other loved ones and find yourself getting emotional, your distress is a sign that your healing fantasy has been activated. You've fallen back into believing that you can't be okay if they don't validate you. If you start slipping into your fantasy that you may be able to get the other person to change, you'll feel weak, vulnerable, apprehensive, and needy. This extremely unpleasant feeling of weakness is a signal that you need to shift out of responding emotionally and move back into observing mode. Was this book written before or after the big mindfulness boom? I guess probably before. Let me see. Copyright 2015? I don't see anything about like any earlier dates, so I would say 2015. Yeah, mindfulness. I mean, it's a little bit more than mindfulness. It's more like applied mindfulness, I guess. If you find yourself becoming reactive, silently repeat to yourself, detach, detach, detach. Make a point of consciously describing the other person in words, silently into yourself. During a stressful interaction, this kind of mental narration can center and ground you. Whenever you try to find the exact words to describe something, helps redirect your brain's energy away from emotional reactivity. The same goes for getting control over your own emotional reactions. Silently narrating your own emotional reactions can give you that extra bit of objectivity that cools things down. Basically acknowledging that you have feelings without letting them take control. That is an important thing that that you need to keep in mind. Like, last time at the end of the stream, I said in my ending formula that you need to remember that your feelings don't have power over you. And afterwards, I was thinking about that and thinking like, nah, that could be misunderstood, because you do need to like acknowledge your feelings. Like you can't just make them not have power over you by pushing them aside or like ignoring them, not acknowledging them. But you do have to acknowledge them, but then just be like, okay, why is that so? Okay, I guess that means that something is wrong. If the other person is still getting to you, find an excuse to put some distance between you. Excuse yourself from the room for a bathroom break, play with a pet, take a walk, or run an errand. Gaze out the window and notice nature. If you're interacting on the phone, find a pretext to get off the phone, and say you look forward to talking another time. Use whatever excuse you need to take some time to get yourself back into a more detached, observational mindset. As you can see, staying observational isn't passive, it's a very active process. It's also the royal road out of emotional enmeshment. As you practice observing, you'll become stronger and more confident in your ability to see what's really going on, especially now that you have more of an understanding of emotional immaturity. You no longer have to be the upset, helpless child, devastated by potshots from your parent. Your clear mind and observational attitude will keep you strong no matter what the other person does. Trying to gauge if I can finish this chapter, this stream. It's gonna be a tough one. Next subchapter. Relatedness versus relationship. Observing allows you to stay in a state of relatedness with your parents or other loved ones without getting caught up in their emotional tactics and expectations about how you should be. Relatedness is different from relationship. In relatedness, there's communication, but no goal of having a satisfying emotional exchange. You stay in contact, handle others as you need to, and have whatever interactions are tolerable without exceeding the limits that work for you. And for the speed of light, it was some fun hanging out. Conversations like this make me happy. Well, I'm happy too. It makes me happy too to have you here. And thanks for being here, and take care and stuff. Bye. Hope to see you again too soon. Wishing you all well. Remember to hug your loved ones and scratch your pets. Man, I wish I had pets. I have the crows in the park, but they won't let me pet them. Yeah, take care. In contrast, engaging in a real relationship means being open and establishing emotional reciprocity. If you try this with emotionally immature people, you'll feel frustrated and invalidated. As soon as you start looking for emotional understanding from such people, you won't be as balanced within yourself. It makes more sense to aim for simple relatedness with them, saving your relationship aspirations for people who can give something back. Okay. Now to summarize this. I'm going to summarize this while eating some peanuts with a crunchy covering. A spicy crunchy covering with a barbecue flavor. Towards freeing yourself from getting caught up in your parents' emotional immaturity. Detached observation, maturity awareness, and stepping away from your old role self. Okay. Look. New page. Attached observation. The only achievable goal is to live authentically as your... Hi there, Callum J. Osborne. How are you doing? KJ? Got it. Hi. If you have... Dude, KJ, you just finished my follower goal. We are officially at 365 before my anniversary on the 24th. So, yeah, thanks for that. Thank you so much for the follow. If you have any questions about what I'm doing here, then please go ahead and ask. Didn't know that I had to complete, so there you go. Yeah, that's the best kind of thing. Like when you don't even know that you're doing something good for someone. I mean, it's just one of those, meaningless milestones. But I don't know. I wanted to at least. Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. I wanted to at least feel like I got at least one follower a day on average. So I think that's good. Everyone should be like me. Well, I mean, maybe not everyone. We do need some people who just kind of keep things running without having their heads in the cloud all the time. But yeah, thank you. I do try to hope. I do try to, spread some good ideas and, vibes, basically. Yeah, thank you. Just authentically as your true self. And also more peanuts. I don't know. What do you mean? Is this whole enmeshment thing necessary? Kind of. Reminder about enmeshment. Enmeshment is saw a server that was a pink cowboy book about who's that, so I have it over and no one of the streamers I follow changed her server name to Milk Pillow Cult. Well then. That is, you know what? I'm opposed to cults in principle, but color me curious. What the fuck, Cruz? Enmeshment is basically an wait, it's not interdependent. It's basically a codependent. That's the thing that I was thinking of the whole time. Codependent relationship. Everyone has to fulfill their role for the sake of everyone else's. Wait, everyone is not a good word to use. All parties have to fulfill their role for the sake. Welcome back. For the sake of for the sake of the others. Let's think of There is no room for individuality and genuine exchange of feelings and ideas. I don't know if that's a good description, but that's the description I'm going with. Much less much less room for changing anything drastically without changing anything that's causing problems. I don't know, man. I'm calm. Also, did you notice? I'm pretty sure I actually put a cooldown on that redeem finally. If I actually did that and don't just think that I did that and, you know, tagged it in my brain as done. Good. Cancel the posture check. And the hit rate. I finally did it. I'm a real boy now. And a stretch. Okay. You know what? I'm making an executive decision. I'm going to just keep reading to the end of this chapter. That's a few pages. Some streamers gone on. I don't know, I feel like it got used a bunch without, like, also it kinda lost its purpose. Like, I made that at a time when I thought, like, man, I keep trying too hard to be funny and I keep making all these lewd jokes, and I was like, man, like, remind me to just chill out and, like, you know, be wholesome. I mean, I don't mind, like, some lewd jokes, but it's like, when it's forced, it's like, you know, just let it happen. Yeah, lewd jokes are they're for the vibes, you know. If you force them, it's just, you know, let's not go there. The point is, I'm going to just keep reading until the end of the chapter. Yeah, let's go with that. Is it to show that you're a wholesome streamer? Yeah, but like, I intended it to be like a sarcastic thing, you know. If you want to tell me that I'm a wholesome streamer, then you can just use your words. I'm not okay. I didn't give it a long cooldown apparently. Jokes are like farts. If you have to force them, they're probably shit. Yeah. You know what? That actually works a lot better than the thing I heard. Like, I remember hearing more about, like, what was it? Relationships are like farts? Same punchline and stuff. That I feel like that's too much of a stretch. And if you need to stretch for a fart, then it's a big shit. Anyway, the maturity awareness approach. Once you've gotten the hang of being observational rather than relationship oriented, you can turn your attention to maturity awareness. This approach will grant you emotional freedom from painful relationships by taking the emotional maturity of others into account. Estimating the probable maturity level of the person you're dealing with is one of the best ways to take care of yourself in any interaction. Once you peg a person's maturity level, sorry. His or her responses will make more sense and be more predictable. Maturity level while laughing and furniture. Yeah. This was just the perfect timing. If you determine that the other person is showing emotional immaturity, as described in chapters 2 and 3, there are 3 ways to relate to the person without getting yourself upset. Expressing and then letting go. Focusing on the outcome, not the relationship. Managing, not engaging. Wonderful. Expressing and then letting go. Tell the other person what you... God, I got the giggles. Tell the other person that you're about to fart and then let go. No. Tell the other person what you want to say in as calm and non-judgmental a way as you can, and don't try to control the outcome. Explicitly say what you feel or want, and enjoy that act of self-expression, but release any need for the other person to hear you or change. You can't force others to empathize or understand. The point is to feel good about yourself for engaging in what I call clear, intimate communication. Others may or may not respond how you want them to, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you express your true thoughts and feelings in a calm, clear way. That goal is achievable and within your control. Release, yes. Focusing on the outcome, not the relationship. Ask yourself what you're really trying to get from the other person in this interaction. Be honest. If it's your parent, do you want your parent to listen to you, understand you, regret his or her behavior, apologize to you, make amends? If your goal involves empathy or a change of heart on your parent's part, stop right there and come up with a different goal, one that's specific and achievable. Remember, you can't expect immature, emotionally phobic people to be different from how they are. However, you can set a specific goal for the interaction. Identify the specific outcome you want from each interaction and set it as a goal. Here are some examples. I express myself to my mother even though I'm nervous. I tell my parents I'm not coming home for Christmas. I ask my father to talk nicely to my children. Your goal might be just to express your feelings. This is achievable because you can ask others to listen, even though you can't make them understand. Or your goal might be as simple as reaching an agreement about where the family will have Thanksgiving dinner. The key is to go into the interaction always knowing the end point you wish to arrive at. Yeah. It's about... It's about knowing what you can affect and what you can't. That's always a big thing when it comes to like finding peace. Let me be crystal clear. Focus on the outcome, not the relationship. As soon as you focus on the relationship and try to improve it or change it at an emotional level, an interaction with an emotionally immature person will deteriorate. The person will regress emotionally and attempt to control you so that you'll stop upsetting him or her. If you keep the focus on a specific question or outcome, you're more likely to contact the person's adult side. Of course, if you're dealing with an empathetic person, it's healthy to address emotional issues in the relationship. With emotionally mature people, you can talk about your feelings honestly, and they'll share your feelings and thoughts. They'll share their feelings and thoughts with you as well. As long as both people have enough emotional maturity, this kind of clear, intimate communication will result in knowing each other better and feeling emotionally nourished. Managing, not engaging. Instead of emotionally engaging with immature people, set a goal of managing the interaction, including duration and topics. You may need to repeatedly redirect the conversation where you want it to go. Gently ease past attempts to change the topic or bait you. Gently ease past attempts to change the topic or bait you emotionally. Be polite, but be prepared to address the issue as many times as it takes to get a clear answer. Emotionally immature people don't have a good strategy for countering another person's persistence. Their attempts at diversion and avoidance ultimately break down if you keep asking the same question. Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. And I was reminds me of like sometimes I think about like what I would do if someone horrible came into my stream and raised a big stink about something. And I mean, I guess probably I'll just, ban them and ignore them. But also, like, if I really want to engage with someone like that, like maybe it's an important subject. Like maybe they're specifically calling something into question that someone is insecure about, and now I need to reassure them or something like that. I think what I do is just like try to keep asking like, okay, why do you think that way? Okay. And then they're gonna be state like their supposed reasons, and I'm like, okay, but why do you think that? Why do you think that's that way? And eventually they're just gonna be like, well, fuck you, man. And then it's like, well, okay, apparently you don't understand that nearly as well as you think you do. Or you're basing it on some kind of appeal to authority or whatever. Some common concerns about the maturity awareness approach. People who hear about this approach for the first time tend to have certain concerns about it, especially about using it with their parents. Here are a few I hear most often, with a response to each. Concern: this sounds like a cold and unrewarding way to have a relationship with my parents. I don't want to be thinking every second I'm with them. Response: if things are going well and you're enjoying being with your parents, there's no need to use this approach. But if you're getting emotional, angry, or disappointed, it's best to switch over to observing objectively and managing the interaction. You aren't being cold, you're focusing on what helps you maintain emotional balance. I guess that's kind of what I do when I'm, a lot of the time when I'm, when I have to like interact with someone who needs comforting, because it's difficult. It's a difficult balance because you want to be there for them and like you are concerned and stuff, but if you let it get too close to you, it's gonna be draining, and then the age-old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. So yeah, I put up a certain layer of detachment and start kind of looking at like what's happening and like being like, okay, where is this conversation headed? Like, what can I do what can I do for this person right now? But without letting myself get like too swept up in it. I feel guilty and devious when I keep some mental distance from my parents. I want to be open and natural with them. Response? Observing consciously doesn't mean being devious or deceptive. It means keeping yourself from being drawn into a whirlpool of reactions that make things worse for everybody. As an adult, you want to be able to think as an individual, including amidst interactions with other people. Having clear self-awareness doesn't mean you're being disloyal. Concern. It's all very nice to advocate not being emotional around your parents, but you haven't seen how intense and manipulative my parents can be. They get overwhelmed by the intensity of their reactions. Response. We can all get overwhelmed by another person's emotion. That's known as emotional contagion. But you'll feel more secure if you set an intention of observing what's happening, rather than becoming swept up in it. Even a bit of observation will help lift you out of the pressure to feel others' distress. It's their distress, not yours. You might feel some of it, but you don't have to become as distressed as they are. Concern. My parents have been very good to me. They paid for my education and loaned me money. I would feel disrespectful if I saw them as emotionally immature. It doesn't seem right to think about them this way. Response. There's nothing right or wrong about thoughts. Ooh, very important one. There's nothing right or wrong about thoughts. You aren't being disrespectful by being truthful with yourself about your parents' emotional limitations. To be an emotionally mature adult, you must be free to observe and assess others in the privacy of your own mind. It isn't disloyal to have your own opinion. You must be free to observe and assess others in the privacy of your own mind. Well, the privacy of your own mind part is definitely an important part of that whole thing. Like, if you shouldn't just blurt out everything that comes to your mind. You can respect your parents for everything they've given you, but you don't have to pretend they have no human frailties. As we discussed in Chapter 2, satisfying a child's physical and financial needs is not the same as meeting that child's emotional needs. For instance, if you needed someone to listen, to provide essential emotional connection, receiving money or a good education might distract you from that need, but it wouldn't fill it. Concern. How in the world do I stay calm and keep observing when my parents are making me feel guilty? Response. Center yourself by focusing on your breath as it flows in and out. Feeling guilty isn't an emergency. Observe what's going on and silently narrate it to yourself in specific words. You're just repeating that thing about mindfulness again. Mentally describing what's happening helps move you from your brain's emotional centers to its more objective logical areas. Left and right side, supposedly. Another strategy is to count. How many seconds did your parents go on that time? You might look at a clock and decide how much longer you're willing to listen. When that time is up, interrupt politely and say you have to leave or get off the phone soon. Say you have something to do, then disengage. You can also talk kindly to yourself. There's no reason to feel guilt. They're trying to push their feelings on me. I haven't done anything wrong. I have a right to an opinion. Try reminding yourself that your parent is attempting a diversion and that it's just like dealing with an upset toddler. The unpleasantness will be over sooner if you stay calm and focused on your desired outcome instead of getting into the fray. Concern. I can learn and practice these skills while I'm sitting calmly by myself, but it all goes out the window when my parents start criticizing me. I feel as nervous as a place kicker in the Super Bowl. How can I ever be calm enough to observe or manage them? The Super Bowl place kicker may be nervous, but you can be sure he's working to be as calm as he can. A big part of sports psychology is learning how to relax when under stress. Your goal is to practice being a little less nervous than usual by focusing on the outcome you want. This isn't a Super Bowl. There's no pressure because you are no longer struggling to gain anything. You don't need the negativity your parents dish up. It isn't about winning or losing. It's about freeing yourself from reacting to your parents' emotional contagion. Concern. I worry so much about my parents. They're always unhappy about something. I just want them to make them feel better. Man, that was mine when, with my father back then. Response. You can't. Yep. If you notice that no matter what you do, your parents don't stay happy for long, just because they're complaining doesn't necessarily mean their goal is to feel better. That's your interpretation. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, Well, if that wasn't really relevant to what we were talking about earlier, just because they're complaining doesn't necessarily mean their goal is to feel better. That's your interpretation. Treat them nicely, but don't bleed for them. Their healing story and role selves may require a lot of suffering and complaining. It isn't your job to abandon your own path and try to push them from behind. If you do, they're likely to become even more difficult and unpleasant. Man, I was so happy when my father called me one time and was like, just had this rare moment of openness where he was like, oh, I'm just feeling a little lonely. Like, oh, dude, why didn't you say so? Come on, I'll call you every week. Let's go. After months of enduring Annie's story continued. Oh, we're back to Annie and Betty. Let's go. This is a continuing saga. After months of enduring her mother Betty's stubborn, silent treatment, Annie tried the maturity awareness approach. She invited her parents to join her at one of the kids' soccer games. That was about as long as Annie thought she could stay objective and in control emotionally. Her desired outcome was a visit with no drama, simply re-establishing contact with her parents. Instead of trying to engage Betty in an open-hearted way, Annie stayed in a neutral observing mode, interacting pleasantly but not expecting any warmth from her mother. Her parents came late, as usual, and Annie greeted them nicely, saying, "Hey, I'm glad you're here." Why am I just noticing at this point that this is reminding me of my sisters? Maybe I should treat them that way? Maybe. Annie gave Betty a little hug and offered her a snack. Betty looked upset and emotional, again making herself the center of their interaction. But as Annie reported, I didn't acknowledge it or feed it. Annie was able to let go of her attempts to establish emotional intimacy with Betty because she now understood that Betty's emotion was probably about herself and didn't reflect a desire to engage with Annie. Indeed, Betty hardly spoke to Annie during the game. As they were leaving the game, Betty choked up but still didn't talk to Annie. Annie was mentally prepared, and rather than feeling irritated, she simply observed how Betty avoided genuine communication and instead acted like she was the injured party. Afterward, Annie summed up her experience with her mother by saying, "I'm finally figuring out that this is who my mother is. This is her personality. It's not about me. I'm glad I didn't get sucked into how she is the one who's been hurt. I'm proud that I'm able to separate her behavior from my sense of worth. On Betty's birthday, Annie called and left a couple of messages, but she didn't invite her mother over. Annie felt good about doing as much as it was emotionally possible for her to do. Wait. I remember didn't invite her mother over. Felt good about doing as much as was emotionally possible for her to do. She didn't make it her problem that Betty didn't call back. When Annie finally reached Betty on the phone a few days later, her mother answered tersely in a cold, reserved tone. Annie played it straight and said, "I'm surprised I didn't hear from you. Did you get my messages?" When Betty answered coolly in the affirmative, not thanking her and not showing any warmth, Annie decided to end the conversation and said, "We'll have to catch up sometime, Mom. Why don't you call me? We'll schedule a get-together." After that conversation, Annie felt more emotionally free. She was no longer obsessed with her mother's rejection. She'd managed to relate to Betty as a fellow adult instead of playing out the old role self of an open-hearted little girl who hoped to one day win her disapproving mother's love. In our next session, she said, "I no longer feel that I've done anything wrong. It's sad that this important relationship, which I've always struggled with, won't have a good resolution. But the fact that my mother doesn't respond doesn't put a judgment on me. It's just another indication that she can't handle a close relationship with me. Even if my warmth repels her that badly, I can't switch it off. I don't want to switch my warmth off." This is also relevant to my own life. This way of thinking will be super helpful to me. Man, I'm glad for that. I wish you good luck. Next time I'm gonna... I'm just gonna finish reading this chapter. Because my throat is starting to get a little irritated. But yeah, next time I'm gonna be taking the notes. Or maybe I will already have taken them if I'm a good dude who prepares things, Maybe. We can only hope. Good luck to you as well, thank you. I mean, I feel like this isn't really relevant to me anymore. At least this part. Mrs. Hamster. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing? Do. Yeah. Stepping out of an old role self. The ability to step back and observe... Oh, right, I was going to say, it's not really... This part, at least, isn't really relevant for me personally anymore. Because I'm already, I've already come to terms with my mother. And like the really emotionally distant person among my parents was more like, my father. But that's not an issue anymore. For better or for worse. So yeah. For me, it's just gonna be coming to terms with the fact that, it's literally impossible for that relationship to get better. Because the other person isn't there anymore. Anyway. Stepping out of an old role self. The ability to step back and observe not only your parents but also your own role self is where emotional freedom begins. When you see how you've gotten stuck in a role self and are trying to make a healing fantasy come true, you can decide to do it differently. Come to think of it, man, I really need to take some time and actually note down my notes, Like, go through my VODs and actually transcribe all these notes into the Discord. So, people can actually look them up without having to go through that whole video. Rochelle's story. Rochelle's mother was a very demanding woman who expected Rochelle to be at her beck and call. As Rochelle put it, "Oh, don't worry, weirdo, I'm fine." As Rochelle put it, I used to feel like I couldn't be okay unless my mother changed and did not acknowledge me. But when Rochelle decided to observe her mother's emotional immaturity instead of being automatically hurt by it, she felt a profound change. For the first time, I saw her behavior for what it was. I didn't get angry or disappointed like before when I felt like I had to get her to acknowledge me. Because Rochelle had worked on acknowledging herself and her genuine feelings toward her mother, she no longer felt like she had to play a certain role or fulfill her mother's feeling fantasy by pouring attention on her. I no longer feel compelled to jump in immediately and be the good daughter for her. I don't have to take on her problems. Rochelle now calls her mother when she feels like it, and she feels free now to say no to her mother's requests. And now that she doesn't feel obligated to put on the role self of the dutiful daughter, Rochelle actually feels free to be more relaxed around her mom. Yeah, right. It just occurred to me, like, while reading that. And it just occurred to me while saying that. That it's actually better maybe to take notes later, after you had some time to process that information. Because this story reminded me that enmeshment is basically a thing where enmeshment between a parent and a child is basically, the child has this role self because they have this feeling fantasy of, if I act this way, maybe mom will love me or something, But the parent also has this kind of healing fantasy, and they impose on their child, because they are still emotionally immature and haven't grown past that, because that emotional immaturity comes from their own parents who also treated them badly. So that is how that keeps getting passed down, I guess. Keeping a grip on your own thoughts and feelings. The ultimate goal in any interaction with a parent or an emotionally immature person is to keep a grip on your own mind and feelings. To do this, you need to stay observational, noticing how you're feeling and how the other person is acting. From this perspective, you can retain your individual point of view and be more immune to the other person's emotional contagion. With parents, keeping your mind on your specific desired outcome for the interaction will help you retain an objective observing stance no matter how they behave. It keeps you in your thinking brain instead of falling into your emotions or a fight or flight reaction. In this way, focusing on your goal for the interaction helps you hold on to your true self, while old healing fantasies and role expectations are swirling around you. Being cautious about new openness. According to Murray Bowen, as a child becomes more of an individual, the emotionally immature parent's knee-jerk reaction is to do something that attempts to force the child back into an enmeshed pattern. If the child doesn't take the bait, such parents may ultimately start relating in a more genuine way. I advise caution if your parents show uncharacteristic openness in response to your adoption of an observational and goal-directed approach. If they start treating you with more respect or open up a bit, you could be vulnerable to getting sucked back into your old healing fantasy. They're finally going to give me what I need. Be careful. Your inner child will always hope that your parents will finally change and offer what you've always longed for. But your job is to keep your adult outlook and continue relating to them as a separate, independent adult. At this point, you're looking for an adult relationship with them, not a recreation of parent-child dynamics, right? Interesting. I was thinking that the author's description of this true self sounded a lot like, the inner child, like the thing that is commonly called the inner child. That's a big thing in psychology in many models. But here she's placing it as the thing that actually wants that healing fantasy. Not sure if she's using that same term in that same way, or if it's just like, or if she's just saying like that memory, that those remnants of your childhood within you are what still want that thing. It's a little bit confusing. If you allow yourself to slip back into those old childhood hopes, your parents' increased openness is likely to evaporate instantly because you'll no longer feel safe to them. Remember, your parents are probably emotionally phobic and unable to handle genuine intimacy. If you become more open, they'll react by pulling back, trying to get you off balance and back under their control. This is the only way such people know to protect themselves from the vulnerability of too much closeness. In the end, the overall dynamic remains the same. Your parents will be emotionally available to you in inverse proportion to how much you feel the need for them. Your parents will be emotionally available to you in inverse proportion to how much you feel the need for them. Only if you operate from your adult, objective mind will you feel safe to your parents. It's unfortunate, but the reality is they are simply too terrified to handle your inner child's emotional needs. In your interactions, just keep observing the present moment and then follow the inclinations of your true nature. Sorry, I just remembered something about the inner child thing. Okay, I guess that would be the part of you that still clings on to that old hope. Like that meshes with what I learned about that concept from a therapist I had. In your interaction, just keep observing the present moment, your true self, and then follow the inclinations of your true nature. Your true self knows everyone involved and the reality of the situation, so it's likely to come up with exactly the response that's needed. But the only way the true self can do that is if you stay in an objective, watchful state that's grounded in your own individuality. Okay. Well, we're about to end. Here is the summary. Our early dependence on our parents. I've been lurking co-studying a little while. Listening to a stream while working is very cathartic. It's not too distracting while stimulating enough that I can stay focused. Oh man, It makes me so happy to hear. So glad to have you here. And I'm happy that I could be of help to you, yeah. Man. Things are good. Things are good. Alright. Our early dependence on our parents makes us seek their love and attention. However, we must step away from our childhood roles if we don't want to repeat them in our adult relationships. The maturity awareness approach will help you deal with an emotionally immature parent or any difficult self-involved person more effectively. You'll have better results if you try to relate to your parent in a neutral way rather than trying to have a relationship. First, you need to assess your parents' level of maturity and approach interactions between the two of you from an observational perspective, focusing on thinking rather than reacting emotionally. Then you can employ the 3 steps involved in the maturity awareness approach: expressing yourself and then letting it go, focusing on the outcome rather than the relationship, and managing the interaction rather than engaging emotionally. In the next chapter, we'll explore the road to freedom from old parent-child patterns. As you read on, you'll see how good it feels to finally step out of old patterns of relating that have been running your life. And that's that for today. Whew. And even just reading, I went way past the 3 hours. Okay. I'll try to have some notes prepared for next time, so we don't just, spend all too long on that again next time. But yeah. Yeah. Let's go. Let's find someone to raid. Would it help if I turned my keyboard on? Alright, we're gonna need something chill. Oh hey. Okay, in terms of chill, we have like 2 options basically, but considering that Tanya is actually having a study stream of her own, sure, let's do that. Oh no.
We haven't looked at the section.
Lovely learning with you, man. I'm glad. But yeah. Aw, you guys are so sweet. Thank you for hanging out with me. Alright, okay, what are we feeling? We have Tipanya, who, her voice is not quite as chill as mine, I will say. She's a little bit more energetic. We do have Uzi Oosborn, who is playing My Time at Sandrock. He is...
You're no fake gamer slime.
He has such a sweet voice. So... take care. Good luck with the dishes. So what are we feeling? More study stream about, that one is about, like, more, brain. This one is about brain, but more as an organ and stuff. Neuroscience. Ooh, neuroscience. That is interesting. Okay, any votes? What does my heart say? Wait. I don't know. I'm not really leaning in either direction, but they both are very sweet. You should see a cardiologist. Well then, you know what? You might have a point there. You pick. Well darn. Okay. I'm gonna go to random.org. Random.org. Min 1, max 2. Coin cost. Yeah. Except I don't have a coin cost. So, result is 1. And 1 would be... Wait, which one would it be? I forgot to state that. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, let's go to Uzi was born. Uzi was with a not a space. Uzi was born. Uzi is also someone, well, for one thing, they're autistic. So there's that. Also ADHD, just like me. And they also tend to be very open about talking about like mental health stuff. So they're good people. I really appreciate them. So yeah. Man, everyone, thank you so much for being here. Yeah. I'm glad we got to hang out for a while. And I'm glad I could help some of you. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone, take care. And remember that, you know, you need to acknowledge your emotions, but they don't own you, and your parents don't own you either. You are your own person, and you need to take care of your own needs. That is your first and foremost responsibility to yourself and the world. And yeah. And remember that you're loved. Bye-bye.